Hello, I want to talk today about the Flynoceros skull frame. I've had this for a few months, I've been flying it, and I've recently decided I should, make a video on some, tips about it, what to know about it, and, just an overall review. Because when I went looking for information on it, I really couldn't find much. So I thought maybe this would help. What kind of triggered me to look at this is I finally have my new flight controller in here. It's a Maytech F405 all-in-one. I'll talk about that a little later, but I have that in place, and I also just recently tuned, so it's kind of where it needs to be, I think, as far as how it flies. So I thought I'd go over how much, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, all of that. To start off, I'd just like to say, first of all, I really love this frame. It's very sturdy, it's built well, and anything I may or may not like about it is nowhere near enough for me to stop using it or look for something else. If I was to do it all over again, I would buy this again in a heartbeat. So going over some of the cons for this frame, to start with, it's very low profile. I like that about it, but at the same time it might be a bit too low profile. It doesn't look like it when you're just looking at it from the side, but if you get in close, you can see that because of how the battery sits in here and it has protection for that, it actually doesn't give you much room for the actual build. I can only really get in the flight controller, and because this flight controller has to be soft mounted, the soft mounts are a certain height and I can't fit anything else in there. I'd prefer to have my receiver here. I have one that fits in a stack, but I can't use it because there's not enough room. Another thing is the battery straps, how you can get them into here. There's nice little, probably can't see it, but there's nice little holder for it, but the space is not that long, so I can only fit these Pyro Drone ones that you get anytime you order anything from them. They're nice and thin, and you have to have two battery straps. It helps hold the battery in so you're not destroying your batteries, and it's kind of hard to get them in and out. Another thing that kind of makes this frame, I don't know, difficult to keep, build off of and maintain is the top part here actually attaches to, the arms and the bottom plate through these bolts here. And there's four of them, two on each side, and, the screw goes up through here and then, bolts down. It's very good for making this tough frame, but it's hard to, you have, and wire came loose and you could easily fix it and get back on. With this, it takes a little longer to get the top off, do the repair, and then, put the top back on and get back out there. You're looking at 20 minutes no matter what. Now that we got the cons out of the way, let's talk about the pros. Firstly, this GoPro mount, or in this case, RunCam 3 mount. It works perfectly, basically. It comes with the frame. They have a choice of, this one is a 20 or 30 degree, it's changeable. I always go with the 30, but also there's an option for a 45 if you're so inclined. I don't have that much camera tilt on mine, so I went with the 30 pretty much. Another thing about this GoPro mount is it fits perfectly in the frame. It's almost as if they built the frame with this in mind, which is pretty stellar. It fits in nicely, and at any point whenever I'm flying, I don't feel like I'm going to damage it. I don't think it's going to come flying off. Other people, they have the GoPro mount, it's not part of the frame, it's on top or something, and it looks like it, at any point, a branch could knock it off, it could get lost, anything like that. It's not coming out of there. Your frame's destroyed if it's coming out of there. So that's really awesome. I'm a big fan of this. One of the other best features about this frame is it's extremely sturdy. It's 4-inch millimeter carbon on the arms. I believe the side plates are like 3 millimeters, and because it's these side carbon plates instead of a top and a bottom and then standoffs, it's super sturdy. Like I've hit into a tree many a times, and it's just like brush it off, bend back your props, and you're back in the air. So that's a really good thing about this. I've been seeing a couple of frames that go with these side carbon plates like this, and I've heard the same thing from everyone who's reviewed those. It's the carbon plates, they hold up better than the standoffs. Another thing about the frame is all the pieces of carbon are filed on the edges, so you're not going to have your wires getting cut or anything whenever they rub up against that, which I've had on other frames, so that was a nice thing about this. Another big selling point of this frame, and it's something that Flynoceros has, when I bought this, they had it on a few of their frames. Now they have it on, I think, all of them. I was going through their site. And the nice thing about the lifetime warranty, I actually hadn't already ended up having to use it. I had a broken arm. I had a pretty bad crash, and actually, I don't think the arm full on broke at that point, but I was flying like 2 days later or something, and I started noticing a crack in the arm, and it eventually came loose and everything. So I contacted them through their website and started the whole process. And the deal with their lifetime warranty is there's a deductible, and you pay whatever for depending on the frame. This one is $30, and then you send back the actual frame itself, the broken one, and then they ship out the new one. Well, that's how it used to be. Apparently they changed it recently. So when I did the whole filling out the form and everything, the next day I got an email saying that they had already shipped it, and don't bother sending back the other one, which is super nice because now I have 3 spare arms, and it works out good for them too, because I break another arm, I'm just going to throw on the other ones instead of waiting for replacement parts. So that's a pretty big deal. It's actually one of the reasons I went through Flynoceros, was because of the lifetime warranty. One of the last features that I really like about this is, we kind of already talked about, it was the reason for the low profile on this, but it has this nice little like space here where the side parts kind of protect and hold in the battery. And I've had a lot of batteries that I lose because they fly out and then get destroyed hitting the propellers or whatever. But with the 2 battery straps and then this, like, battery never goes anywhere, and that's a big deal for me because batteries get expensive, and the longer you can go without having to replace them, the better. So now I want to go over some like tips or things you should probably know about this quad before you buy it, or maybe even if you already bought it. None of them are deal breakers. They're more of just a hey, heads up, and also maybe Flynoceros should know this is type of things that I ran into that I needed to fix or change about this. So the first thing is the instructions on their website are just terrible. They're not even really instructions. It's just a picture of the parts, and they're all kind of floating in air, kind of pointing where they go. And it was really hard to build this. It would have been a lot harder if I hadn't built a frame before, but because I had that experience, I was able to get through it. One of the other biggest drawbacks is they don't have it in the instructions, and they didn't send the additional hardware for it. But in the instructions, they don't show you that you're missing these bolts and screws, and they're kind of a big deal because my first frame, I didn't notice that, and I didn't use those, and every time I got into a crash, my arms would move slightly, and it would start to rip that, move that bolt out of there and rip up the frame a bit. So that's a pretty big deal, and I think it eventually led to the side plates being almost worthless. It worked out because when the arm broke, those were on their last leg, and I was able to replace all of it. But yeah, so that's something that they should either correct or just keep in mind if you get this. You're going to need some longer screws and those extra bolt. Camera mount. These are actually pretty nice, but the problem with them is, and it's not really that big of a deal, but when I bought this frame, I actually got my Runcam Swift, the normal size, and when it all got here and I started putting it together, It turned out the normal size run cam Swift is too big for this with these 3D printed mounts. So I was lucky I had a mini on another quad that I ended up using, but that's just something you should know. Like that, it'd be nice if they had that on their instructions or their website. Hey, by the way, this is the size camera that you should be using. Okay, I also want to just reiterate the low profile on this thing, like super low profile. It looks nice and it works well with frame. The only real drawback is that you can't have an actual stack. And I don't know, I was kind of hoping at some point to move to a 4-in-1 ESC, but it's probably not going to happen on this thing. That would be some clever maneuvering, and I think it just is what it is. I don't know if there's anything Flynoceros can do to fix that, because I see why they like the low profile. I like the low profile. It's just it's a drawback. So just keep it in mind. The last thing I want to talk about is they give you a piece of carbon for the back of the frame that is supposed to house or supposed to hold your antenna. It's this thing. Just throw it out. Get rid of it. You shouldn't be using it. I actually started with it before when I first got this, and I lost a VTX to it because it basically holds through those holes is where the antenna meets the SMA adapter on the VTX, and the first time that thing gets hit, it just all the pressure goes straight onto that joint, and I broke a VTX right away with it. So don't use it. I don't really know what Flynoceros can do for that, but what I did is just have it come out the back like that and zip tie it to the standoff there, and that works great. Sometimes I'll do 2 zip ties, but I don't think it's necessary. So next I want to talk about the flight controller I have in here, and this is unrelated to the frame, but I don't think I'm going to be making another one of these videos anytime soon, so I might as well talk about it here and now. I have the Maytech F405 all-in-one. I think I mentioned that before. The only thing I can say about it is, I don't know, don't buy it. It's been nothing but a pain for me. So I researched it. I researched it a lot. I was looking for a new flight controller, an all-in-one, and I was very excited about it. All good reviews on it. I even Googled, issues with Maytech so-and-so, and found nothing. So I get it in the mail, I put it on the frame, and, go for a hover test, and of course what happens is I get the yaw twitch, and it's hovering, and every so often, just twitch. And, messed around with the configurations in it in Betaflight, and some of them made it super worse, and some of it made it a little better, but it was always there. So finally I Google it, specifically yaw twitch, and it's just slew of, posts about this exact problem. And then I found the Maytech Facebook group, and it was just every other post was yaw twitch, how do I fix it? So I don't know, the solution, the real solution, firstly they have a list on their website, and I'll put it up here, of things that you have to do. And I already mentioned, has to be soft mounted. Another thing is they give you a capacitor for it, and you have to have that off the VBAT. And there was another little yaw twitch, but you have to go in and change the yaw direction to 270. So they basically just made the board oriented wrong. That's a little weird. But the real solution was these capacitors for your ESCs. The only people that I've seen that have not been having the yaw twitch without these capacitors are people running BL Heli 32. And I'm not really all about switching to BL Heli 32 because it's closed source and so on and so forth. So I had to add the capacitors, which not a huge deal. They're super cheap and they were easy to put on. It's just one more thing to be on your quad that can, get pulled off and you're done flying for the day, because you have a crash, or maybe they vibrate off or anything. It's just, I don't know why, but they need to fix this, and they just haven't. Now, it is worth mentioning that Maytag's other F405s that aren't the all-in-one apparently don't have the yaw twitch. It's just this one is very sensitive to noise. Bardwell did a video on one of them, and he says, first of all, it doesn't have the yaw twitch, and he loved it. So I don't know. I would not recommend this board to other people. There are so many other ones out there that you don't have to worry about all this, and you should go with them. Lastly, I want to talk about, I did tuning the other day, and I think I got pretty good. I'll put them up on the thing here right now. I'm not an expert at tuning, this is probably the second time I've done it, but flying it on the default was, it worked fine. And then as soon as I did this and when it flew, it just felt so much better. So for people running this frame, I know PIDs have to do with a lot of things. It's the frame, it's the propellers, it's center of gravity, it's the flight controller, but maybe these are a good place to start if you're so inclined or need help with that. But that's about it. I just want to review as far as the frame goes. I love it. It's nice and sturdy. The GoPro Mount is huge for me, and if I had to, I would buy this again. So I don't know, hope this helps, and if you have any questions, I don't know, leave a comment or anything, and if I can answer them, I can. And otherwise, maybe we can talk to Flynoceros and find out what they think. Okay, thank you.